Okay, welcome to today's tutorials. So today we'll be looking at a new topic under the web design course, and then the topic is localhost. So we are looking at introduction to localhost. Before we look at localhost, I want us to go back and look at hosting. Earlier we looked at hosting and we said a web hosting is like it's a space where you store your website file. So you need a space to host your website, just like you have files like pictures, which are images. You have files like text file, like maybe a Microsoft document, you type a text in it and all that. You need a space to save it on. So if you save it on your computer, you are actually saving it on your ROM, the ROM of your computer. So you need that space. So the web hosting is like a space. And you know your computer also comes with a RAM, the random access memory. So the bigger the RAM, the faster the computer. The same thing applies to the web hosting. So look at a web hosting as a computer, a supercomputer with space where you are hosting your site. So we had understanding of this earlier, and then we stated that hosting has features of email accounts, FTP access, WordPress support, and you remember this image. So we have the hosting service like the Namecheap, the GoDaddy, the HostGator, and others. So we have the FTP file upload, we have the database, we have website building tools, and then we have the website, and then the email account. These are just some few of the features I've captured here, but there are more. As we move forward, you will get to see them more. So now you need hosting to be able to host your website on the internet, but then you can also develop your website on your computer. So that one, it is locally on your computer. So what we are trying to do is to be able to develop our website on our computer. So it means that we are going to host the website on our computer. So the ROM, the space on our computer, is what we are going to host our website on. Do all the designs, and then after we are satisfied, we test everything is functioning well, then we can migrate it to a web hosting platform. Because for instance, when you are developing your website directly on the internet, like Namecheap hosting, you are paying for it. So let's say it's taking you a week to build the site, or it's taking you a month. It means that you have to spend this money in that month before you finish building the site. Meanwhile, you can do it on your local computer without spending a dime, and when you are ready, then you can pay for your hosting and then your domain. So instead of having to go through spending unnecessarily, you can build everything on your computer, test it just like it is on a website, and ensure everything is working properly before you migrate it. So by the time you migrate the site online, you have everything functioning properly. You can do everything on your computer. So the hosting providers like this, they just have a plain computer. Like let's say it's a supercomputer. Let's say our computer like this, only that their own is large and having large space, like maybe millions of terabytes or even bigger units. So that's what makes their computers super powerful. So they are using supercomputers to host our website, and these computers are connected to the internet 24/7 before your site can be online. So in a situation where the internet cut for that computer hosting your website, it means that you have lost, or your site will not be available online. That's why most developing countries don't have hosting company, because of maybe power outages and how do I say it, internet facility not being too stable and fast. Okay, so that's just a recap. So what we are looking at is local host, and with the local host that we are looking at today, we are looking at just two objectives. The first objective is to know the different software for setting up a local server. So when a server company or a hosting company like Namecheap have a supercomputer, they actually install some softwares on it for you before you use. Or if you are buying, that's if you are buying shared hosting. So shared hosting, Namecheap and other companies they have installed all the necessary softwares needed for you to start building your website on it. But let's say if you are buying dedicated server, they will give you the naked server like that. So you have to install the necessary software that you need to use before you can use it. So with a dedicated server, you are having your PC naked like this. So what we are learning now, it means that to some extent you can manage a dedicated server. So a dedicated server like this, they don't have the cPanel on it, they don't have the FTP client on it, there is nothing on it. It's just a naked server like that, that you have to download those softwares and then install them on it. Now when you are looking for a WordPress hosting, it means that the company, the hosting provider like Namecheap that you can see on the screen, for instance, has installed the WordPress on the hosting for you. So what we are trying to do now, we have our computer naked like this, and then we want to download some softwares that will help us to create a hosting environment locally on your computer, so that we can use it to develop our website on the computer before we migrate it to a live server. So with our computer playing like this, that's it. So two objective: knowing the software and then being able to set it up on your computer. So now quickly, let's look at what a local host is. So when you talk about local host, it refers to the local computer a developer uses to code and test websites or applications. So in the context of web development, accessing localhost in a web browser directs the browser to fetch and display web content from a local server. Now if you see this PDF I open on the screen, you see like it's open in the browser, but then it pick the file from the local computer. Yeah, that's just an example. So localhost also, you build a thing on your computer and then it load the site in the browser by pick it from your computer, not the internet, once you use the localhost URL. So the whole idea of localhost is hosting website locally on your computer, building everything on your computer, creating a hosting environment, building everything just like on the server itself, and then testing it to make sure everything is running perfectly before you go online. So that's it. So this concept is central to developing, testing and debugging web applications privately before they are deployed to a public server. So we already look at domain names, and we said that in the actual case, the real application is that every website has an IP. So localhost also has an IP, and then you are going to see the display of those theories that we've looked at in a practical perspective. So the IP of localhost is mostly what you can see on the screen, 127.0.0.1. So it's commonly used to represent a local host for IPv4 connections, and then the two columns one is used for the IPv6. So we'll be looking at IPv4 and then the IPv6 connections. So that's it. Now, using localhost is crucial for several reasons. This PDF is on your Telegram page, so you can refer to the PDF, and then it is very detailed, step by step. If you follow everything, you'll be able to use localhost without a problem. So using localhost is crucial for several reasons. So these are the importance of using localhost. So it gives you immediate feedback. Developers can see the effect of the changes in real time. So you can see everything, immediate feedback in real time without the delays associated with uploading files to remote server. And then security wise, testing on localhost means that unfinished or potential insecure code isn't exposed on the public internet. So once you are building it offline, even if you've not added any security stuff, you are not bothered that somebody can hack in, because you are offline locally on your computer, unless the person hack your computer. Then cost effective, it eliminates the need for a live server during the development phase, reducing cost. So I've explained that already. You don't need to buy a server and be paying for it whilst you are developing. So you can develop everything locally without spending anything. And then environment control, developers can configure the local environment to closely mimic the live server. So you can configure your local PC. So those are the advantages. Then we are looking at the overview of local development environment. So a local environment or a local development environment is a setup on a developer's computer that mimics the server environment websites run on. So you are trying to create a server environment on your local computer. So this setup typically includes a web server, which we refer to, we'll be using the Apache and then the Nginx. That's what we'll be using. And then we'll be using database. So a database server, example the MySQL, and then the MariaDB, and a programming language. So we'll be using programming languages like the PHP and the Python. But in this case, you are not going to program, because the server is built based on this programming languages. So we'll have the option to choose between them. And when it comes to web server, mostly PHP is very popular, and then we'll be looking at it as we move forward. So these things, they may seem technical, but they are very basic. As you start practicing it, you'll see that there are things that are so simple to do. So developers have various tools and softwares packages to create this environment. So now the explanation I'm giving now is that you have a raw server, which is your computer in this case. To create a hosting environment, you need some softwares. So this is just a layman explanation. You have a space on your computer which you want to host a website. You need a software that will create a hosting environment for you, just like the way the hosting provider creates a hosting environment on the shared hosting. So the shared hosting, the hosting company already has created a hosting environment. So once you purchase, they will give you the login. So in this case, they give you your domain name, and then the premium hosting domain, direct domain name, and then your IP address, and then also they will give you the cPanel details. So cPanel is a hosting management, so it's one of the popular hosting management softwares. And then the FTP client login. So when you buy hosting from a company like Namecheap, GoDaddy, HostGator, and others, these are the things they will give you to access your hosting. But on your local computer, what you are looking at is creating your own hosting environment with all the hosting softwares or all the web hosting applications. So there are certain software that come with all the web hosting application, the main ones, and you can install other ones on it if you want to. And we'll be looking at 4 of them. The first one is XAMPP, the second one is MAMP, and then we have the WAMP, and then the local by Flywheel. So we'll be looking at these 4 softwares for our local server. So XAMPP is, they are all unique in their own way. They can all perform the same function. So XAMPP is, they are all very good, and then you have to learn to use all of them, because you can go elsewhere and then they say this is what we are using. It's not that different. They are not that different. As a developer, you should be able to use it. So this is the XAMPP website where you can go and download the Windows version, the Linux, and then the OS version. You can simply search for XAMPP. XAMPP is XAMPP, and there is only one XAMPP. I need to show you the domain name, so you don't need to bother yourself with keeping the domain name in mind. But XAMPP official domain name is the apachefrench.com. And then the MAMP. So the MAMP 2, you can download it here. So but the XAMPP is completely free, 100%. It's an open source software which is completely free. The MAMP has a premium subscription, but you can try there is free download which can also do the work. So if you like, the premium has some more features as usual, you know. Then the WAMP server also is a popular local host software that you can use to host your website locally on your computer before migrating it to the internet. Then the last one we'll be looking at is the what's the name, is the local by Flywheel. So with the local by Flywheel, the only main difference is that it comes with WordPress installed on it, and since our web design is more focused on WordPress web design, this one, once you have it set up on your PC, you don't need to install WordPress again. But the other 3, you have to download WordPress software and install on them before you can be able to use WordPress. But this one, it comes with WordPress installed on it directly. Now when you go to the real server, we can say that the shared hosting here, the reseller hosting, VPS, the dedicated server fall under, or they represent the XAMPP, the MAMP, and the WAMP. And then the WordPress hosting, the WordPress hosting represent the local by Flywheel. So what it means is that the local by Flywheel come with WordPress installed on it. So on live server, if you buy shared hosting, if they didn't specify that WordPress managed hosting, it means that when you buy it and you want to host a WordPress website, you need to go to wordpress.org, download the WordPress software before you install it on the host. That's when you can use it. That's how it works. So take note of that. So that's the explanation of the 4 main softwares. Now we want to look at setting up a local development environment. Setting up a local development environment. You want to set up a web hosting on your computer. So that's like a local development environment you are setting up on your computer. So a typical local server environment for web development include three main components. So this is very, very important. A typical local server environment for web development include three main components. So every server in web design has three main components. So the first is the web server, the second is the database server, and then the third is the programming language processor. So three main components for every server: the web server itself, the database server, and then the programming language processor. So when you talk about the web server, we are talking about the Apache and then the Nginx. So this software handles requests from a web browser. So the web server, like the Apache, it handles requests from a web browser and delivers web pages and content over the internet or a local network. So Apache and then the Nginx are the most popular web servers. So Apache is known for its power and flexibility, while Nginx is praised for its performance and efficiency. So when it comes to web server, it's either Apache or Nginx, though there are many out there, but you definitely choose between Apache and Nginx. So they are the most popular in the market. When you ask me, I only know the two, and there are others. That's what I know. All right. Then we have the database server. So the database server is the example is the MySQL and the MariaDB. So website that store content users profiles or other data need a database. So if your website store content, for instance, you post articles on your website, it means that you store content. The article has to be stored. Or users create accounts on your website and then maybe upload information. Maybe it's a social media platform where users have to upload their profile pictures, upload pictures for their friends to like, or it's a banking or a financial institution's website where the user can make deposits, withdraw, and those information has to be saved in a database server. So if you create a server, you create a database. If you don't create a database, it may not even run at the first place. So you have to learn to know how to use database server, and the most popular are the MySQL and then the MariaDB. So website that store content, users profile, other data need a database. So MySQL is a widely used relational database management system. So of course MySQL is very popular, just like every filling station in Ghana means Shell. So MySQL is what we know, and MariaDB is a fork of MySQL with additional features and improvements. So MariaDB 2 is SQL, but it's a fork, a division, and then some additional features were added to make it. But MySQL is more popular, as you can see. Then the programming language processor. So every server has a programming language processor. Of course, PHP is very popular. So PHP is a server-side scripting language designed for web development. So the PHP processor executes the PHP code, which can generate dynamic page content, manage sessions, or operate databases, and send the resulting output to the web server to deliver to the user's browser. So what we learn now is every web server has three components: the web server, which examples are the Apache and then the Nginx, and then the database server, which the examples are the MySQL and then the MariaDB. Then the third component is the programming language processor, which example is PHP. We have Python too. So we have looked at the four main softwares that we'll be looking at: the XAMPP, the map, the WAMP, and then the local by flywheel. So what we need to do now is to download these softwares and then install them. So we do them one by one. Now this is interesting. You get to face some problems if you have some softwares on your computer using a particular port. So now you understand the application of ports. When you say port in this case, what comes into your mind? Okay. Port in this case has to do with numbers. We'll be looking at port 8888. One of these softwares, like the XAMPP, use port 8888. So if there is a different software on your computer using that particular port, it means that you have to change the port setting. You have to change the port so that the XAMPP can run. If not, it will be crashing and giving you headache. And all you have to do is to change the port, because maybe a different software is using that particular port. As we move forward, I'll take time to explain port in the subsequent tutorials. So we have to download these softwares and then set them up to see how they look like. And once you are able to do that, it means that you have been able to prepare a local server or a local development environment on your computer where you can install templates, you can build your website, and then test it before it goes live. So in this document I share with you, there is a step-by-step guide to install local server software. So there is step-by-step guide to install a local server software. So talking about the XAMPP, the download, the installation, the configuring, the Apache and MySQL, and then testing all that, and then we talk about the MAMP, and then the WAMP, and finally the local by flywheel. So configuring is very basic. You can follow the step-by-step text guide here, and you can watch YouTube video tutorials. Now you are a developer, you should learn to research on your own and be able to use things or be able to do things on your own. So you are going to follow this step-by-step guide to install the various softwares, the 4. You are doing all the 4. So this become an assignment. So this is an assignment on the screen. You have to download, install, and conduct tests on the following local server software: the XAMPP, the WAMP, the MAP, and then the local by flywheel. So you are supposed to download each of these software, configure them. If it is not functioning properly, you have to change the port, you have to follow the guide, do research, and then be able to set the local environment for development. So you are supposed to do this on your various computer, and your course reps should guide you to do that. The course rep and the assistant should guide you to do that, so that you can be able to set up this software. Then we proceed from there. So let me go back to the objective for today. So the objective for today is to know the different software for setting up a local server, and we have achieved that. You know the WAMP, the XAMPP, the MAP, and then the local by flywheel. Then be able to set up a simple local server on your computer, which becomes your assignment. So this one becomes your assignment. It's not anything difficult. You just go to the various websites, and of course you are all using Windows, so you download the Windows version, and this one you download the free version. You download this one too, and then this one too, and then you install them configure them properly, using choosing the various PHP versions and all that, configuring them. Though we'll be doing a practical about it, but you can do this yourself with what you know so far. Downloading, installing, and configuring this is not a problem, and your course reps are there to assist you to achieve this. So you are using today and tomorrow to do this assignment. Then we'll be having another class next tomorrow where we'll be installing WordPress on XAMPP, MAMP, and WAMP. We said local by Flywheel comes with WordPress already, so we have to understand the WordPress software and then install it on the 3 localhost software so that we see how it is done. Then we can start developing a WordPress based website. The other assignment I gave you, most of you didn't do it, some of you did it very late. As for this assignment, I wouldn't take that. You have to do this assignment quickly. When we meet physically, those who are not doing assignments will be forced to leave the class because you have to follow the class at the pace we are going. So that is the end of today's tutorial, and then your assignment here again on the screen is to download, install, and conduct tests on the following local server software as displayed on the screen. So this is the end of today's tutorial, and make sure you do your assignment, master this, because it is part of the objectives and you have to master it, and whatever assistance you need, you get it. So next tomorrow we'll have another class, and then we'll connect for live questioning and answer sections where you can ask your questions. Thank you very much. Have a nice day ahead. Bye.